Hey, everybody. Dr. Sumana Moole here again with MerusGastro, and for another episode with this week. I'm really excited to have Dr. Tamara Beckford on with us. She is not only an ER physician, she is a best-selling author, she's a public figure, she's a speaker, and she helps organizations detect and prevent burnout through workshops. And I'll let Dr. Beckford hop in and introduce herself. And I'm excited. I have so many questions for you, Dr. Beckford. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And as you said, I'm an ER doc and I'm here in Houston, Texas. And, I have been doing emergency medicine. We're going on almost year 15 or so. Those of us, we start after a certain number, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's been going on for a while. In addition to practicing emergency medicine, I still do that full time. I am the CEO of Your Caring Docs, where you mentioned as I help organizations to reduce their employee burnout and stress through curated self-care workshops, and have been part of this journey in burnout prevention after really looking within myself. And, well, I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to really delve into all that I do. And, hopefully we'll be able to help your audience. Some of you might find your story within my story and then hopefully be able to provide some info that will help you guys.
Absolutely. And I am so sorry if you find the odd background. I'm a passenger in the car, but I'm not driving. I just got delayed at this one thing that I did not think it would take so long, but I'm happy to, spend this time because I know your time is very valuable. I didn't want to miss it. So could you, what I was thinking initially was, how did Dr. Beckford get into this? How did you make that turn from being an ER physician to actually working on stress management and helping others manage their stress? How did that transition happen? If you could take us back.
Absolutely. So, it really goes back a couple of years. So after training and, working as an ER doc, I really felt there was a void that I had. And I thought maybe the void was, maybe is it that you wanted to start a family and it's not happening? And then, was able to start the family after did have some challenges. And then after a while, I'm like, okay, I still felt that void. Now, when I say that, it's not to say that I don't love my wonderful boys. I love them. But we all know as physicians, and those of you guys who are even in careers, when you work towards a career, a lot of times from the outside, everyone is like, well, that's it. You've done it, but you felt like you have more to give to the world. So during the time prior to the pandemic, I decided to venture into entrepreneurship. And then the pandemic came the exact same year. During that time, as I looked around as my ER colleagues, they were really having a very challenging time during the pandemic, which is rightfully so. No one else is around from the first or from the prior pandemic, right? Everyone died who were there from the Spanish flu. So we don't have, and emergency medicine wasn't even a specialty then. So we don't have a guideline to say that for pandemics, you do this. So the stress level was high within my profession in a lot of those who are in healthcare. But instead of me going and getting burned out, I actually started to thrive, which was just ironic. So it's like, well, why are you thriving during this time when most of your colleagues are really having a higher level of anxiety, depression, burnout is starting to go on the rise? And that's when I recognized it's because I changed the way my outlook on things. And then I started going inward and working on things, which now I realize was self-care. So one of the things that I started doing is I started to do a lot more personal development. I started to really surround myself with people who are more like-minded, who saw the glass half full versus half empty. And then I started to, set in place little routines that kept me, kept my mind refreshed, that kept me looking and having positive outlook on life itself and all the things that I had to offer. And then I recognized wow, this is actually a huge part of self-care. So once I started to do that and saw all the impact it had on myself during the busiest and most challenging time as a career wise, medicine is hard enough, but during the pandemic was harder. Then I recognized that, this is something that I can't just keep for myself. I need to be able to share this with the world. And that's when I decided to do my self-care workshops and to help others to reduce burnout too.
Absolutely. That sounds amazing. So were you actually working when the pandemic hit, or did you actually take time off and then go on this journey of self-development and trying to figure out, what it is that the next venture that's more satisfying, or filling that void you had mentioned?
Oh no, I was working full time.
You were working. Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing.
still working
And you
full
guys
time.
are like line when, this unknown at that time, so much of unknownness with COVID. And now you look back and look, oh, it's not a big, but it was a big major deal. I mean,
Absolutely.
it thrive in the midst of something no one has ever seen, like you said, and to be okay with it, but also do well. Whereas the rest of the world, people resigning in droves from healthcare field, and now we are still having a shortage. What are like how, I mean, could you walk us through a little more detail into like what process, like books you read, or like podcasts you do, or how are the steps look like for you? And then you can help us come back into know what are you doing now to help others.
Absolutely. So as I said, I went inward, which was a big help, because I stopped looking at the external factors and tried to control what I could control, which was how I responded to things, right? So one of the first thing that I delved into was I call it my wake up routine. A lot of people call it a morning routine. And I use wake up because I'm a night doctor. So I work overnight. So my wake up is afternoon as opposed to others early morning. So one of the three factors that I did with my wake up routine was, number one, before going to bed, I stopped keeping electronic or my phone by my bed. Prior to that, my phone will be there in the middle of the night. If I toss and turn and woke up, I jump on, I'm on Amazon, I'm reading the news, and so there was like constant stimulation. And that was prior to the pandemic. Once the pandemic started, the stimulation was worse, right? How many more deaths? How many more people within your community? How many more sick? How many more this? So once I cut a lot of that out and I started working on it, I put the phone away. It's across the room. My phone is still being used as an alarm clock. So when my alarm goes off, I get up, I go, and I turn it off. Now, that was the second part, getting up. I used to be a snooze person. Snooze. But I started to work on that. And what helped me with that was, I'm forgetting her name now, Melanie, 54321 is the name of her book. And I don't know, her name just ran through my head, but I'll remember it before the end of this and I'll let you know. But so 54321, she says, just get up and then just start your day. So once Mel Robbins, that's her name. So Mel Robbins has a book about that. And she talked a lot about, how she used that to really pull herself out. She was actually in the bouts of depression. And she just said, you know what? I can actually, if I get out of bed, I start moving, then I'll at least start my day. Now, once you snooze, you put yourself back into this 90-minute sleep cycle and you're not really helping yourself. So I said, okay, let me try that. I started to get up. At first, of course, it was a little bit challenging. I'm dragging, but then boom, now I get up. Next thing I do is I invest in my mind. So I've already put my phone away, so I'm not stimulating myself overnight. I get up when my alarm goes on and I walk across, turn it off, and then I start to invest in my mind, which was number 3. So with that, some people are spiritual, so am I. So I'd read my Bible, then I'd listen to podcasts that were in podcasts that just had positive inspiration, positive affirmation. So everything, my mind at this point is on a solid foundation, right? So now that my mind is on a solid foundation, I can now enter my world. So enter into anything else that I need to do. Because everything else will no longer disturb me and I won't react to it. I'm now just responding. So an email about, anything that's disruptive, it's now just an email that I can respond to. If I did that the first thing in the morning before I worked on my mind, then I'm reacting. I'm panicking. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is going on. Oh, I can't believe they sent me this message about this. I'm just so tired of this. But once I'm already on a solid foundation, then I respond. Okay, well, let me see what's the best way to approach the response to this email. That's it. So that was a huge thing. And I did that every single day through the pandemic. And wonders for my work. Even now, my colleagues keep saying, I don't understand. Like, how is it that you're just so calm? Because I work on myself when I step in. So I'm not going in and reacting. I'm going in and just responding to things. The next thing that I did was I found a community, and it's a community that actually now you and I are in, and that's how, you and I got to meet. So this community were of like-minded people. And the difference with this community versus my natural community, with those who I worked with, is that, like I said, the glass was half full. Okay, this is going on, but how can we come together and to help each other out to fulfill a goal we have within ourselves, right? So every Wednesday we met, and every Wednesday, and Wednesday is the hardest day of the week, if you think about it, right? It's hump day. Everybody's levels are down. But what it did is revived me for the second half of the week. And that continued and continued. So I always say for those, in looking self-care, it really is about like the mind, body, and spirit. So what are you invested in your mind? What are you invested in with your body, movement, nutrition, which goes along with what you do, and then spirit, who are you surrounding yourself with? So those are the aspects that I did that was able to help me.
Yeah, that's amazing. These are things that are available to everyone, but to actually recognize them and take them as your own and have the consistency to practice them and take those proactive steps to surround yourself and make a transformation. I think those the doing pieces are missing pieces a lot of times, and that's amazing that you did it in the midst of the hardest times we've had in history, probably. Yeah. And like you said, Wednesday, that's amazing to be in the EBS community. And that's just, I look forward to it. Now it's like a no-brainer. You do it Wednesday.
Exactly. You start looking forward to it, which is the other thing that I said. I'm like, now it's like our oxytocin. It's like, yay, Wednesdays.
So habits, the power of habit, I guess, is amazing. So at that time, did you kind of begin to reach out to the immediate colleagues? It wasn't an organized workshop you had yet, right? Did you, were you able to help your colleagues get through their burnout, stress, especially the ER physicians at the first line? I can only imagine what you guys were seeing. Everybody coming in coughing or whatever. You were the first ones to be, to wear all the PPE and not knowing, what you have at the end of the day going home and what you're taking home.
Absolutely.
So were the people around you? Were you able to help the people around you? How did they take to it? Were they able to stick with their routine? Did they help them? Did it help?
So actually, during that time, I didn't realize what I was doing. It wasn't until around 2022 that I looked and I said, oh, wow, that was that. And when it truly clicked was when I had an evaluation. So, you have to have your physician, the medical director to, evaluation. And he said, you're faring out a lot better than your colleagues here. And I looked and I was like, you're right. I am. What is it that you're doing? And I told him, it's just my outlook. And a lot of this really stems from within. So did I end up doing workshops we were still not able to get around and still
right. That's true.
But within the organization, like I have offered, but because of some of the laws within the hospital system and so on, like I can't do it directly for them. And so because of that, and then I began offering it for other organizations and other industries, because I felt like, this something that I found and that I'm doing here within the healthcare industry, the organization itself that I work for, they have things in place for it, but I felt like other industries could probably really learn from some of that I've experienced and some of the techniques that I've used on myself. And so that's when I began to offer it for other industries.
That's awesome though. I mean, it's much needed, even though we are past the pandemic, so to say, it's still, the after effects are still seen. I think
Absolutely.
the mental health illnesses, depression, anxiety, yeah, it's a big thing.
It's gone up almost 30%.
Yes,
yeah.
right. Yeah. Do you have so anxiety has gone up. How about depression?
Yeah, around 28%. And this is throughout the world. Yeah, according to the World Health Organization, anxiety is at an all-time high. And, it's one of those areas where you can understand. And I feel like the ripple effect from the pandemic, we are going to feel it way beyond now. The socialization, the people trying to find a new normal in their life. The good thing is that, like I said, I still work in the ER, and most of the people, if they're coming in and they're COVID positive, they do not look anything like the COVID positive from 2020. The majority of the patients. So, that's the blessing that, we've been able to move great strides beyond that part. But the mental issues and the mental effect that's still there, I think that's where we're having to work on now, because we've seen the physical improvement, but now we have to work on the mental improvement.
That's true. Absolutely. So what sort of organizations do you work with now, or and then what kind of, are they all in-person workshops, or do you do virtual? How is it structured? What are the different things that you offer in trying to help others?
Absolutely. So I do offer virtual and in-person workshops. And I also do speak at conferences on this, the conferences such as the grant professionals, because we all think about industries, we all think about just ourselves, because unfortunately we're usually siloed, so medical professionals are hanging out with other medical professionals. And so we don't recognize that, people in other industries, they are also having their version of stress and burnout. So I do speak at conferences such as, like I said, grant professional conferences. I've spoken to the Bar Association about stress reduction and burnout prevention. And so we've done legal and we've done the grant professional. I'm hoping to also provide this same help to those who are in education, because education is also another industry that's dealing with a high rate of burnout, especially the K through 12. They're almost like 54% of the K through 12 teachers are experiencing burnout, and they're also having high turnovers. So that's the goal, is to also be able to provide this for the education and finance industries, because those additional industries, when you're having high turnover and in the organization, they're spending more money in getting new people there, and you're unable to really move beyond your goal when you're having to keep starting with a new person. So that is my future goal, is to tap into those additional industries. But right now we've been doing the legal and the grants writers.
And these workshops, how long are they? Are they like a week long, a few days?
So we have half day workshops, and then we also have continual, like an 8-week program. So with the 8-week one, you can do that every other month, 6 and 8 weeks. So we can do it every month or every other month in order to be able to effect change. We do recognize that these are workshops that will pull people away from their active work. So we don't want to do, the goal is helping to reduce stress and burnout in order to help to improve productivity. So in order to improve productivity, we do need people to produce and to be available to work. So we don't want to pull away from the job, but we want to just have just even an hour every month with positive and powerful techniques and resources that the employees can use for the rest of the month and build upon in order to reduce their stress.
That sounds, I mean, it's something every organization should have, because that's not, it's, I can't think of one place that's not a problem, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, do you also work with like small organizations where there may be only 4 or 5 employees?
Yes,
Of course,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
great. And I will put the link in how to reach you. And then in where else can people find you other than I think I have the link to your website.
Absolutely. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. So I have a good LinkedIn followers. So I would love if those who are listening and part of your audience, if you can join me on LinkedIn. I do have a newsletter that goes out every Sunday on LinkedIn. It's called Self-Care Sundays. It's been going now for maybe like a year and a half. We're going on for that newsletter. For those who are looking to work with me, you can do it through 2 ways. You can either contact me through my website, which is yourcaringdocs.com, which is URCARINGDOCS.com. There's a link for work with me, or you can do it by sending me an email directly at Dr.Beckford at yourcaringdocs.com. That's Dr. BECKF as in Frank, ORD at URCARINGDOCS.com.
That's great. That's awesome. Any lasting thoughts that you want to leave us with for our audience that they can implement immediately and trying to take care of themselves?
Absolutely. I'd say that routine, that morning routine is a great way to start. Now, you might think like, okay, I don't have time. You can try to set your alarm, even if it's just 5 minutes earlier, and then work on getting up. If you're a snooze queen like I was, this is not something that is going to happen automatically. This is something, like we say, it's habit forming. So give yourself grace, take time, and the more you build upon it, the better you'll feel. And then you'll continue to work on your self-care.
Yeah, that's awesome. How many hours of sleep do you get? I was just thinking you wake up on time, but how do you aim for a certain number of hours?
I do aim. I aim for 6 to 7. I do get interrupted sleep. I'll be honest, because of the fact that I work overnights.
Oh, but, yeah, that's right.
Yes, but during the time when I am off, I won't say it's recovery sleep, because we've learned that you're not truly recovering, but I do get better sleep when I am off.
I see. Yep. So you're working 5 days, 5 nights.
I work 3 nights, which ends up being 4 days, because you start off on Sunday and end up on Wednesday morning. And then I do what's called a flip over on Wednesday. So Thursdays and Fridays, I am like the human race.
Yeah. I think by now, we kind of are so used to our routine. You probably don't even think about it. Yeah, you
my body
then you have your days. Is used to it, right?
Yes. So it does. I have been able to form this routine within my body, and yes, I can tell with the cortisol surges, like how my body wakes up just at this time and that time. But it's one of the things that affords me the opportunity to be able to do all that I want to do. If not, then I think I'd be in an even worse state with a very erratic
If your mornings, days are taken out with a regular traditional job, that there's no time to do anything. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that was awesome. I mean, that's a great start. There's so much more. I feel like I need to get on your website and know more about the morning routine. Is certainly, I think, a wonderful place to start for those of us who are trying to figure out where do we start, right? We trying to get back into the norm of things now that we've lifted all the masks and everything else.
And I do want to tell people, the biggest hiccup that everyone always says, I don't have time. Look at your schedule. If you're unable to get all these things, give yourself 15 minutes. 15 minutes to do something that makes you extremely happy or extremely relaxed. If it's reading a novel, if it's listening to music, if it's some people that I've talked to, they said, I like to crochet, or, anything, if you're a person who likes to use your hands, free drawing, just something to relax your mind, and it'll do wonders for getting you ready for the rest of the day.
Yeah, set the day in the right tone. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all those, ideas and tips on taking care of ourselves, which I think is the number one thing for all of us. Without that, we can't achieve anything really.
Absolutely.
That's the foundation. It has to be. And I will link all the things we talked about in the description, and I will see you later tonight, and then again on Wednesday. Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Dr. Beckford. It was such a pleasure.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you.